When I asked when my son was going to get married, my daughter-in-law replied, "We got married yesterday, only close ones invited." A week later, she asked about the rent. "Did you send it?" I said, "Didn't I mention?" Can you even begin to imagine the searing, gut-wrenching pain when your own son, your only son, looks you in the eye while his new wife, Lena, just smirks and says, "Oh, we already got married yesterday. We only invited special people." What the hell do you even do after a dagger like that is twisted deep in your heart? It was a moment that made me question everything I thought I knew about family. For 3 long years, I had been their personal bank. $500 in rent every single month. I bought every piece of furniture in their house. I stocked their fridge when it was empty. I'd even shelled out for Lena's wedding dress, the very dress for the wedding I wasn't invited to. "Special people," she said. And yet, there I was, standing in my own living room, the phone weighing 1,000 pounds in my hand. My son, Max, couldn't meet my gaze, while Lena, his new wife, lounged comfortably on the sofa I'd bought them. My beautiful, pale pink dress, bought for their wedding, hung uselessly in my closet, a cruel, mocking reminder of the dreams I'd had. Dreams of being there, a proud mother in the photos that would now never include me. I'd saved $1,000 as a wedding gift. I'd cleaned my house top to bottom, thinking they might stop by, just maybe. All of it shattered into dust by those 4 venomous words. Max eventually mumbled some rehearsed nonsense about it being intimate and just the 2 of us. But I knew it was a lie. I'd seen the pictures on social media. Lena's parents beaming, toasting with champagne. Her siblings celebrating. And there was Lena in her white dress, the one I'd helped finance with the $800 I'd given her for personal expenses just weeks before. I saw everything I wasn't meant to see. A week later, Lena called. And get this, her voice wasn't the confident sneer from before. It was desperate. Pleading. "Renata," she stammered. "The rent is overdue. The landlord's threatening to kick us out. You forgot to make the transfer." The world was ending, apparently. I took a slow, deliberate breath, the kind that feels like it's holding back a dam. The silence on the line stretched, thicker than molasses. I thought of every single time I'd dropped everything for them. Every time I'd eaten beans and rice so they could have what they wanted. And now, after that humiliation, they had the gall to call me as if nothing had happened? "Lena," I said, a calm I didn't recognize in my own voice. "Didn't I warn you that I only helped special people?" The silence on the line was so profound, I could hear my own heart hammering. For the first time in years, she was the one trembling, not me. "Renee," she stammered, using the name she usually reserved for sweet talk. "I don't understand. We were always special to you. You're like a second mom to me." Lies. All sweet, sugary lies. The same voice she used when she needed money for the honeymoon. For the rings. Rings I'd helped finance, never knowing I'd be shut out of the ceremony. For so long, I'd walked on eggshells, measuring every word, every gift, desperately hoping for a crumb of affection from my own son. I was the silent provider, never protesting, always there, always invisible. But that phrase, "only special people," it woke something up inside me. Something fierce and long dormant. I did the math. In 3 years, between rent, food, gifts, emergencies, and whims, it was over $20,000. Money taken from my retirement. From my savings. From what my late husband left me. And for what? To be treated like a stranger on my only son's wedding day? That night I cried. Not tears of sadness, but a torrent of pure, unadulterated anger. Tears for the years of silent humiliation. For feeling like my love was a burden, my presence an inconvenience, my money the only thing that mattered. I cried for the foolish mother I'd been. The woman who had lost herself trying to be indispensable to people who considered her utterly dispensable. The next morning, something inside me had fundamentally shifted. A new hardness in my gaze. A determination I hadn't known existed. I made coffee, but this time, I didn't think about calling Max. I didn't check my phone, hoping for an apology. For the first time in a long time, I was my own first concern of the day. I spread out my bank statements and started calculating. $500 rent multiplied by 36 months? That's $18,000. Food and supplies? $7,200. Gifts? $3,000. Lena's medical emergencies? $800. Car loan, never repaid? $2,500. AC repair? $600. Living room furniture? $200. The total, a staggering $33,400. Money I'd poured into two comfortable, ungrateful adults. My phone rang. Max. My heart usually would have pounded, but this time, I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Then Lena. Then a text from Max, "Mom, please answer. We need to talk." I deleted it without a reply. Later, I went for a walk. Just because I wanted to. No errands for them. I walked past the park where I used to take Max as a child, remembering that sweet boy. When had he become this man? This ATM with feelings? When did I start confusing love with money? At the bank, Mr. Clean, the manager who'd seen my account drain month after month, watched me through the glass. I walked straight to his office. "Mr. Clean," I said, "I need to cancel all automatic transfers." His surprise was genuine. "Are you sure, Mrs. Richter? Did something happen?" "What happened," I replied, a small smile touching my lips, "is that I finally opened my eyes. I canceled everything and asked how to protect my accounts." As he processed it, my phone was a frenzy of calls from Max and Lena. I turned it off. Mr. Clean handed me the papers. "Mrs. Richter," he said, "I apologize for intruding, but I hope you are not being pressured." On the contrary, I smiled, I've finally stopped pressuring myself. Leaving that bank, I felt an incredible lightness. My money was mine. When I got home, 3 cars were outside. Max's, Lena's, and a third, unfamiliar one. I saw movement inside my house. They had keys. My blood ran cold. I took a deep breath. It was time for the first real confrontation of my new life. I opened my front door to a scene that will forever be burned into my memory. Max, his head in his hands on my sofa. Lena pacing like a caged animal. And an older man, a stranger, sifting through my personal documents on my dining table. "What is happening here?" I demanded, my voice surprisingly loud and steady. They all looked at me as if I was the intruder. Lena's voice, thick with fake urgency, was first. "Ranada, thank God you're here. We need to talk. Mr. Fisher is from the law firm. We consulted about your situation." "My situation?" I asked, a dangerous calm in my tone. "What situation?" "I'm doing perfectly fine." Max finally lifted his head. Those eyes, once innocent, now reflected pure financial panic. "Mom, we went to the bank. They said you canceled everything. Mr. Clean said you blocked our access. We don't understand why." Mr. Fisher, a man in his 50s with a gray suit and an insincere smile, approached. "Mrs. Richter, I am Dr. Fisher, a family law attorney. Your children are concerned about your mental well-being and have asked me to assess the situation." I ignored his outstretched hand. I swept up my documents from my dining table. "These are my private papers. You have no right." "Mom!" Max interjected, his condescending tone grating. "We're worried about you. Your behavior has been very strange lately." First, you cut us off financially, then you don't answer our calls. We think you might need professional help. Lena tried to take my hand, her fake tenderness dripping. Renata, honey, we know you're stressed. Maybe the loneliness is affecting you. At your age, episodes of confusion are normal. Confusion. The word echoed like a gong in my head. Confusion? No, I wasn't confused. I finally understood everything. They weren't trying to help me, they were trying to declare me mentally incompetent. To seize my money. The same woman who told me I wasn't special enough for her wedding was now calling me senile. I am not confused, I stated, the firmness silencing them all. I am clearer than I have been in years, and you're going to leave my house right now. Mr. Fisher stepped in. Mrs. Richter, I understand you feel overwhelmed, but your children have a right to intervene if they believe your ability to make financial decisions is impaired. They have documented several concerning behaviors. Concerning behaviors? I laughed. A harsh, cruel sound. Like what? Deciding my money belongs to me? Deciding to no longer finance the lives of two adults who treat me like trash? Lena exploded. We never treated you badly. You're part of our family. Everything you have will belong to us one day anyway. We're just speeding up the process. There it was. The raw, ugly truth. In their minds, I was already dead. They were just collecting their inheritance in advance. To them, I was just a problematic ATM with legs. Out! I commanded, pointing to the door. All three of you, get out of my house. Max stood, his face contorted in a familiar, childish rage. Mom, we can't just leave. We have obligations. The rent, the car payments, the credit card you co-signed. You can't just cut us off. I can. My voice rose, finally, in the entire conversation. Who says I can't? For years, I paid rent that wasn't even in my name. I filled a refrigerator in a house where I wasn't welcome. I financed a life that clearly had no place for me. Mr. Fisher put a folder on my table. Mrs. Richter, we've prepared documents, a power of attorney to manage your finances more efficiently. Just temporary. I picked it up and, without opening it, tossed it straight into the trash. The only transition happening here is yours to the front door. Lena started to cry again, but these were tears of pure frustration. You can't do this to us, Renata. We were counting on you. We made plans based on your support. We bought things. Obligations based on my money, I countered. Not on my well-being, not on my happiness, not on my company. Just on my money. And now that I've decided my money is better used in my own life, I'm suddenly a confused old woman who needs legal guardianship? Max tried to approach, but I stepped back. He wasn't the boy who ran to my arms after nightmares. He was a 35-year-old man who saw his mother as an obstacle to a comfortable, financed life. Mom, we made mistakes, he tried, in a voice meant to sound remorseful. The wedding was a misunderstanding. Lena was nervous. I was under pressure. We can fix this if you just become reasonable again. Reasonable? The word tasted like ash. Being reasonable means continuing to pay for your life while you treat me like a stranger. It means pretending it doesn't hurt to be excluded from the most important day of my only son's life. Mr. Fisher, packing his papers, warned, Mrs. Richter, this isn't over. Your family has legal options. If you are indeed making irrational decisions, a judge can determine you need guardianship. His words were a punch to the gut. This was a real threat. Mr. Fisher, I said, looking him dead in the eye, I suggest you do your research thoroughly. Before you threaten a 71-year-old woman who has managed her finances flawlessly for 40 years, raised her son alone after her husband's death, ran a household, worked honorably until retirement, and who, until last week, financially supported two completely capable adults. Lena stopped crying, her face hardening into a cold mask. This won't stay like this, Renata. We have rights and lawyers, too. Perfect, I replied. Hire all the lawyers you want, with your own money, of course, because mine is no longer available to finance your legal tantrums. They walked to the door, their wounded dignity palpable. Before he left, Max turned, Mom, this is going to end very badly for you. You're going to end up alone, with no one to take care of you when you really need it. Max, I said with deep sadness, but crystalline clarity, I am already alone. The difference is now it's by my own choice, not by your neglect. I closed the door behind them. The silence that followed was the most beautiful sound I'd heard in years. It was the silence of freedom. That night, I couldn't sleep, but not from sadness or regret. From adrenaline. I lay awake, planning my next moves like a general preparing for battle. If they wanted a fight, I would give them a war. But I would fight it with intelligence, not emotion. At 6 a.m. I was dressed. First stop, Mr. Weber, an attorney specializing in elder rights. He'd helped with my husband's will years ago. Mrs. Richter, he said, as I explained, what your children tried yesterday is more common than you think. It's called elder financial abuse, and it's a federal crime. Entering your house without permission, reviewing private documents, that's a violation. His words were both calming and terrifying. We spent 3 hours documenting everything, every transfer, every gift, every pressure for money. Mr. Weber whistled when he saw the total, $33,400 in 3 years. Mrs. Richter, with this money, you could have lived comfortably, traveled. Instead, you financed 2 adults who didn't even respect you enough to invite you to their wedding. Leaving his office, I had a plan: change all locks, install a security system, open a new bank account at a different bank, and most importantly, start living my own life. My next stop was the hardware store. Mr. Sommer, the owner, knew me from all the supplies I'd bought for Max and Lena's apartment. Another emergency with your son? He asked with a knowing look. No, Mr. Sommer. This time, it's for my house. I need the best locks you have. His son, Ethan, an installer, happened to be there. Providence. Ethan, I said, I also need surveillance cameras. The complete system. Price is not an issue. While they prepped, my phone rang. An unknown number. Lena. I'd blocked hers. Renata. It's Lena. Please don't hang up. We need to talk, like civilized adults. Speak, I said dryly. Listen, I understand you're upset about the wedding. It was a mistake. Max and I want to make it up to you. How about a special dinner to celebrate our wedding with you at your house? We can cook together, like we used to. The manipulation was so blatant, I almost laughed. Lena, I interrupted. How much rent do you owe exactly? The silence on her end confirmed I'd hit a nerve. Well, it's 2 months. $1,000 total. But I'm not just calling for that. Renata, we really miss you. Do you miss me or my money? I asked. Both, she replied with surprising honesty. Renata, I won't lie. Yes, we need your financial help, but we love you, too. You're important to us. If I'm so important, I asked, why wasn't I important enough to be at your wedding? Why am I not important enough to get a call that doesn't ask for money? When was the last time you called me just to ask how I was doing? Another heavy silence. We both knew the answer. Never. Lena, I'm only going to explain this once. For 3 years, you treated me like an ATM with feelings. You used me. You ignored me. You humiliated me. And finally, you insulted me in the worst possible way. Now that the money is running out, you suddenly discover you love me? Renata, please, she begged. I cut her off. There is no please. You made your choice when you decided I wasn't special enough to be at your wedding. Now I'm making mine. I hung up and turned my phone off. No more interruptions on my day of liberation. That afternoon, I went to the beauty salon. I hadn't been in over a year, always canceling because Max or Lena needed something. Cynthia, my stylist, exclaimed, "Mrs. Richter, what a surprise. I thought you'd forgotten us." I didn't forget you, Cynthia. I just forgot that I also deserve to be pampered. I got the full treatment: cut, color, manicure, pedicure. For the first time, I spent money on myself without guilt. When she was done, Cynthia smiled. "You look beautiful, Mrs. Richter. But more than that, you look free." Did something good happen? Yes, Cynthia. I finally learned to say no. When I got home, there was an unfamiliar car and an older woman sitting on my porch steps. "Mrs. Richter?" she asked. "I'm Eleanor Brooks. I live next door. We've been neighbors for years, but never really talked. Yesterday, I heard loud voices and got worried. Is everything okay?" Her sincere concern touched me deeply. Here was a stranger showing more care than my own son. "Come in, Mrs. Brooks," I said. "I'll make you coffee and I'll tell you a story you won't believe." Eleanor listened, nodding. When I finished, her eyes were teary. "Mrs. Richter," she said, "you did the right thing. I went through something similar with my daughter 5 years ago. I also thought it was my duty to finance her life. Believed they wouldn't love me without money. I cut off the money. At first, it was terrible. Threats, emotional blackmail. But after 6 months, my daughter called to genuinely apologize. Now we have a real relationship based on love, not money." Her words gave me hope. "Do you think Max and Lena will understand one day?" I asked. "Maybe yes, maybe no," she replied honestly. "But that's no longer your responsibility, Mrs. Richter. Your responsibility now is to live your own life." That night, for the first time in 3 years, I went to bed without worrying about Max and Lena's rent or food. I slept better than I had in years. The next day, Ethan and Mr. Summer installed the new locks and security system. My phone rang constantly from unknown numbers, Lena's still trying. I simply ignored them. "This system will give you absolute peace of mind," Ethan explained. "You can see who's at your house from your phone, and if someone breaks in, an alert goes straight to the police." The irony wasn't lost on me. I was installing security to protect myself from my own son. But it didn't hurt as much anymore. It was just a practical measure. While they worked, I called my sister Diana in Chicago. We'd lost touch because our conversations had become financial reports disguised as family news, always about Max and Lena's latest need. "Renata," Diana answered, surprised. "How are you? We haven't spoken in months." "I'm good, Diana. Better than good. I'm calling you to tell you I finally came to my senses." I told her everything. The secret wedding, the humiliation, the lawyer, cutting off the funding. Diana listened. "Renata, sister, it was about time. Every time we spoke, it broke my heart to hear you brag about how much money you gave them. As if love could be measured in dollars. I wanted to tell you something, but I didn't know how." "What did you want to tell me?" I asked, bracing myself. "That Max never spoke lovingly about you when I saw him at family gatherings. It was always, my mom helped me with this or my mom bought me that, but never, I miss my mom or I love my mom. It was as if you were a service provider, not a person." The word stung, but it was a necessary pain. "You know what else I noticed? Lena always spoke about you in the future tense. When Renata is no longer here, we can remodel her house, or when we inherit, we'll invest in the business." As if they were waiting for you to die to really live. This revelation hit me like a bucket of ice water. They didn't just see me as an ATM. They saw me as a temporary obstacle between them and their money. After talking with Diana, I sat in my kitchen processing it all. Years of marriage to a man who truly loved me. 35 years raising my son alone. And then 3 years financing 2 adults who saw me as a $33,400 obstacle. The doorbell rang. It was Eleanor with a mug of fresh coffee. "I thought you might need some company," she said. We sat in my living room and she shared more. "My daughter said the exact same thing, you're like a second mom to me. We're special to you. Everything will be ours one day anyway." Those are rehearsed phrases, Mrs. Richter. They learned them from the Emotional Manipulation Handbook. We laughed. A bitter laugh. It was both funny and tragic to recognize such predictable patterns. "Did you ever feel guilty for cutting off the money?" I asked. "Every single day for the first 3 months," she answered. But then I started to see results. My daughter had to get a second job. Her husband learned to live within their means. And more importantly, they learned that I was a person, not a resource. That afternoon, I visited my husband's grave, something I'd put off for years. "Robert, my love," I whispered. "I think I lost myself for a while. After you left, I put all my energy into Max. I wanted to be the best mother, thinking I could somehow make up for him growing up without a father. But I forgot to be myself. I cleaned his grave, put fresh flowers. For the first time in years, I wasn't in a hurry to get home to solve a crisis. When I did get home, there were 3 cars again. Max, Lena, and 2 others, agitated, pointing at my house. I called Mr. Weber. "Don't get out of the car, Mrs. Richter. I'll be there and I'll call the police. I requested a temporary restraining order yesterday. They are not allowed on your property." Minutes later, Mr. Weber and 2 patrol cars arrived. I watched the officers talk to them. Max gesticulating angrily. Lena crying again, but her tears meant nothing to me now. "Ma'am, you can get out safely," an officer said. As I stepped out, Max yelled from the street. "Mom, this is ridiculous. We're your family. You can't call the police on your own son." "Max," I replied with a calm that stunned even me. "Family doesn't threaten lawsuits for mental incompetence. Family doesn't break into people's homes. Family doesn't treat their mothers like ATMs." Lena screamed, "You're going to pay us everything you owe us. We have bills you co-signed." Mr. Weber stepped in. "Mrs. Richter, any future communication must be through my office, and I suggest you consult with an attorney before making collection threats, because my client has full documentation of all payments she voluntarily made for 3 years." I watched them drive away, defeated, but not giving up. I knew this wasn't over, but for the first time, I felt confident. I had professional help, Eleanor's support, and most importantly, mental clarity. That night, Eleanor invited me to dinner. I met her daughter and saw what a healthy family relationship looked like. No financial asks, just genuine conversation and laughter. I wanted that with Max, I confessed to Eleanor later. "And maybe you'll get it one day," she said. "But first, he has to learn that you are a person who deserves respect, not just a source of income." I went to bed feeling hopeful. The next few days were strangely peaceful. The cameras showed Max and Lena driving past my house, sometimes parking, but never getting out. Mr. Weber had advised me to log every visit. "Their persistence will work in our favor," he'd said. "Every time they show up after we've told them not to approach, it strengthens our case for a permanent restraining order." On Friday morning, while I was painting, Mr. Weber arrived with a grim expression. "Renata, we need to talk. Max and Lena have filed a formal lawsuit for mental incompetence in family court. They're requesting to have a legal guardian assigned to you. The words were stones. Does that mean they can take control of my money? If a judge determines you are unable to manage your affairs, yes, he could place Max as your legal guardian, giving him full control over your finances. I sank onto my sofa, the weight of this deepest betrayal crushing me. My own son was trying to legally declare me incompetent to steal my money. Mr. Weber, what evidence could they possibly have? You've seen I'm completely competent. They have statements from 3 witnesses claiming you've behaved erratically. Unpaid doctor's bills you supposedly didn't pay, and medications you supposedly hoarded. And a statement from Dr. Lehman saying you refused to cooperate with a psychiatric evaluation, which they interpret as proof of mental decline. The manipulation was diabolical. They'd twisted my refusal into proof of mental illness. My instinct to protect myself into proof that I needed protection. Who are these witnesses? Lena, a neighbor named Mr. Davis, and someone who claims to be your pharmacist, Mr. Green. Mr. Davis, my unpleasant neighbor, always annoyed by my friends parking in front of his house. Mr. Green, my pharmacist. I didn't understand. I need to talk to Mr. Green, I told Mr. Weber. Something's not right. We went to the pharmacy. Mr. Green was visibly nervous. Mrs. Richter, good to see you. Mr. Green, I said, I was told you signed a statement saying I show erratic behavior with my medications. He turned beet red. Mrs. Richter, your daughter-in-law came in a few weeks ago asking about your medications. She said she was worried because you were acting strangely. And what did you tell her? I explained to her you only buy vitamins and occasional aspirin, that you don't have regular prescriptions, but she insisted that was proof you weren't taking adequate care of your health. Mr. Weber intervened. Mr. Green, did you sign a paper? She brought a document that said I was confirming Mrs. Richter had regular medication purchases. I thought it was for her health insurance or something. I didn't know it was for a lawsuit. Lena's manipulation knew no bounds. I asked Mr. Green to write a statement explaining exactly what happened. After the pharmacy, we confronted Mr. Davis. He greeted us with open hostility. What do you want? Mr. Weber said, I understand you signed a statement about my client's behavior. And you're right, I did. That woman is crazy. She's been acting strange for weeks. Can you be more specific? Installing cameras like she lives in a war zone, having strangers visit all the time, yelling at her family in the street. He'd taken everything out of context. The cameras were for protection. The strangers were my new friends. The yelling was me defending my home. That's what a crazy person would say, he sneered. There was no reasoning with him. That evening, Mr. Weber and I planned our defense. Ranata, we need our own psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Moore, a colleague, is an expert. She can officially confirm you're completely competent. What if Max and Lena have bribed the judge? What if none of this matters because they've already decided to declare me incompetent? I asked, fear creeping in. Ranata, the legal system isn't perfect, but it's not completely corrupt either. We have solid evidence of your mental competence and their financial motivations. We are going to fight this. The next day, I met Dr. Moore. Kind but astute eyes for 2 hours. She asked questions, gave tests, memory, reasoning, financial understanding, emotional health. Mrs. Richter, she said at the end, your results are well above average for your age. You are not only mentally competent, but your cognitive function is excellent. It was a relief, but also heartbreaking confirmation of how far Max and Lena would go. That afternoon, Eleanor organized an emergency meeting with our garden club friends. When I told them about the lawsuit, they were outraged. Ranata, Maria declared, we will testify in your favor. Anyone can see you're doing great. Better than great, Cynthia added. You're clearer and stronger than many 40-year-old women I know. Alfreda, with her 80 years of wisdom, took my hands. Renata, my dear, what your children are doing is nothing new. But you have something many victims didn't: documentation, legal support, and friends who can testify for you. Hope bloomed. I wasn't alone. I had an army of strong women. You know what the saddest thing is? I confessed. Max and Lena are willing to destroy any future possibility of reconciliation for money. Even if I were willing to forgive everything, there's no going back from this. And maybe that's for the best, Cynthia replied. At least now you know exactly who they are. That night, for the first time since this nightmare began, I truly cried. Not out of sadness, but grief. I said my final goodbye to the son I thought I had, to the dream of a loving family. But something new emerged, an iron determination not to be stripped of my money, my dignity, or my freedom. The war had officially begun, but I was ready to fight. The trial was 3 weeks later. I woke early, put on my best black suit, and looked in the mirror. Today, not just my mental capacity would be judged, but my dignity, my right to live free from abuse, my value beyond my bank account. Mr. Weber reviewed our strategy. Renata, remember, the burden of proof is on them. They have to prove you're incompetent. We just have to show you are not. At the courthouse, I saw Max in a new suit, Lena in black, as if for a funeral. Perhaps it was the funeral of our family relationship. Max avoided my gaze, but Lena met mine with cold hatred. Their lawyer, an older, confident man, began his opening statement, portraying me as a confused old woman manipulated by strangers. Your Honor, he said, Mrs. Renata Richter has shown a clear mental decline. She has cut off all financial support without explanation, installed unnecessary security due to paranoia, and isolated herself from her loved ones under the influence of neighbors and lawyers who are taking advantage of her vulnerable situation. Every word was chosen to make my self-empowerment sound like dementia. Then came their witnesses. Lena's testimony was Oscar-worthy. She cried, describing my alleged hostility and paranoia, my isolation. Your Honor, she whimpered. Renata has always been like a second mom to me. Seeing her mental decline has been devastating. We just want to help her get the care she needs. Lies wrapped in convincing tears. Mr. Weber cross-examined her. Mrs. Schuster, when was the last time you called my client without asking for money? She stammered. Is it true you and your husband married without inviting her? It was a small ceremony. Is it true when she asked about it, you told her you only invited special people? Lena's face flushed. Those words were taken out of context. What would be the right context to tell your mother-in-law she is not a special person? She had no answer. Max was next. Seeing him swear to tell the truth, then prepare to lie about my mental health, was one of the most painful moments of my life. My mom has always been very generous with us, he testified. But lately, she has become erratic and irrational. We believe she is being manipulated. When Mr. Weber cross-examined him, the mask fell. Mr. Richter, how much money have you received from your mother in the last 3 years? I don't know the exact amount. Does $33,400 sound about right? Maybe. She's always been generous. And how many times have you visited your mother without asking her for money? The silence was deafening. Is it true you and your wife broke into my client's house without permission and checked her private documents? We were worried about her. Is it true you brought a lawyer to pressure her into signing a power of attorney? We wanted to help her manage her finances. Do you, at 35 years old, need the help of your 71-year-old mother to pay your rent? Max couldn't answer with dignity. Mr. Davis testified about my supposed erratic behaviors, but admitted he'd never spoken to me directly. Dr. Lehman testified my refusal to be evaluated was proof of mental decline, but Mr. Weber countered with Dr. Moore's impeccable evaluation. Then it was our turn. Mr. Green, my pharmacist, explained how he'd been tricked. Dr. Moore testified about my excellent mental state. Mr. Summer from the hardware store testified to my mental competence. Eleanor and my garden club friends spoke of my clarity, my newfound vitality, and my healthy social life. Finally, it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand, feeling the weight of 71 years of experience, wisdom, and strength. Mr. Weber guided me, letting me tell my whole story, the $33,400, the wedding humiliation, the emotional manipulation, the invasion of my privacy, the legal threats. Mrs. Richter, he asked, why did you decide to stop financial support for your son and daughter-in-law? Because I finally understood that what I was getting from them was not love, I replied, my voice clear and strong. It was a commercial transaction disguised as a family relationship. My money was welcome, but I as a person was not. Do you regret your decision? I only regret that it took me so long to make it. Max's lawyer tried to confuse me, but I answered every question with precision. When he implied my new friendships had manipulated me, I explained that for the first time in years, I had relationships based on mutual respect, not financial interest. In his closing argument, Max's lawyer painted me as a victim of manipulation. Mr. Weber's rebuttal was devastating. Your Honor, what we have seen here is not the case of an incompetent old woman, but that of a woman who has finally found the strength to free herself from years of financial and emotional abuse. The plaintiffs have presented no real medical evidence of mental incompetence. What they have presented is frustration because their source of income has decided to exercise her legal and moral right to protect her own resources. Judge Miller retired. 2 hours felt like 2 years. When he returned, his expression was serious but clear. After reviewing all the evidence, it is obvious to this court that Mrs. Renata Richter is in full possession of her mental faculties. Professional psychiatric evaluations confirm her cognitive competence. Her financial decisions, as painful as they may be for her family, are completely rational and within her rights. My heart pounded. Furthermore, the judge continued, the evidence suggests that this lawsuit is motivated by financial interest rather than by genuine concern for Mrs. Richter's well-being. The court completely denies the request for guardianship. I had won. I had not only won the lawsuit, but my freedom, my dignity, my right to live free from the abuse of those who supposedly loved me. Leaving the courthouse, I saw Max and Lena arguing with their lawyer. Lena gave me a look of pure hatred. Max looked at me one last time, and for a second I thought I saw regret, but it was too late. That night, Eleanor hosted a celebration with all our friends. We toasted to justice, to freedom, to the sisterhood of strong women. Renata, Alfreda told me, today you didn't just win a trial, you won back your life. She was right. For the first time in years, the future was completely mine. I could travel. I could love. I could create. I could live without fear, without guilt, without manipulation. 3 months later, I sold my house and moved to a beautiful apartment near the city center. I donated half of my money to organizations that protect the elderly from family abuse. With the other half, I began to live the life I had always wanted. I traveled through Europe, took art classes, joined volunteer groups. I never heard from Max and Lena again. I heard from others that they had to move to a smaller apartment and that Lena had found a job for the first time in years. Perhaps the adversity would teach them what my generosity never could, the value of honest work and independence. Some nights, looking at the stars from my new balcony, I think about the woman I was a year ago. Fearful. Manipulated. Believing I had to buy love. That woman is dead. And in her place, someone has been born who has understood a fundamental truth: true love never has a price, and freedom is never too expensive. My name is Renata. I am 72 years old, and I have finally learned that the most important person I have to love and protect is myself. Now, I've shared my story, my journey through betrayal to freedom. I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt taken advantage of by family? What would you have done in my situation when they tried to declare you incompetent? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to know what you think.